icon. You have simultaneous translation into Albanian, Serbian, Bosnian, and Montenegrin, as well as Macedonian. For questions, we have two options. You can either raise the hand and then we can give you talking permission, or make questions in the Q&A chat. All right, so we can begin. Thank you again for all of you joining this webinar, in which we will be launching the IFF's toolkit for the Western Balkans. Without any further ado, I will give the floor to Fatjona Mejdini. She's the Director of Southeastern Europe Observatory at the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. Fatjona, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dardan. Good morning, everyone. It's truly a pleasure to have you all here today. As Dardan mentioned, my name is Fatjona Mejdini, the Director of the Observatory of Illicit Economies in Southeastern Europe at the Global Initiative. Today, we are really delighted to introduce to you an online toolkit on illicit financial flows in the Western Balkans. While my colleagues Anessa, Dardan, and Claudio are going in a bit to explain you in details why this toolkit is important and how you can use it, I would like to briefly emphasize that at its core, these toolkits aim to enhance the understanding in this region of the often elusive, I would say, concept of illicit financial flows. The toolkit provides a concise and practical overview of how the 6 Western Balkan countries are addressing illicit financial flows, identifying both achievements and also challenges. Most importantly, it also provides a recommendation how various stakeholders can contribute to better understanding and combating these flows. The novelty of this effort, however, lies in the fact that all these overviews are provided by the civil society. The Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime is an organization of civil society itself. And in order to compile this toolkit, we have worked closely also with civil society experts across this region. The toolkit is supported by the global program Combating Illicit Financial Flows, implemented by the GIZ, and financially supported by the German Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development and the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I also want to take the opportunity here to mention that we began working with this program, in fact, in 2019. And as a result of their support, we have released in 2020 and 2022 two major publications on illicit financial flows in the Western Balkans that I highly recommend you to take a look if you haven't done so already. The toolkit, this toolkit, in fact, that we are going to present today, it's another milestone in our contribution against this phenomenon in the Western Balkans. But of course, this is not going to be the last one. In fact, we are currently working on 2 reports that will provide in-depth analysis of the money laundering phenomenon. You know, it's part of illicit financial flows, shedding lights on the sectors and the tactics involved. Furthermore, we will soon delve into the role that the private sector can and should play in this region to combat illicit financial flows. We are really looking forward to sharing these upcoming reports with you. But for now, I truly hope that you will enjoy and find the toolkit that we are going to present useful for all your research and other engagement that you have with the topic. So thank you very much again for your presence, and I hope that you are going to find this webinar interesting and useful.
Thank you, Fatjona. It is my great pleasure to invite now Minela Kalem. She works as Junior Administrative Specialist at GIZ. GIZ was the organization, the donor that supported the launching of this toolkit. So, Minela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dardan. First of all, good morning, dear participants. I would like to thank you all for participating in today's launch event organized by our partners, the team of Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. As mentioned, my name is Minela Kalem, and I'm assistant at the GIZ Global Program Combating Illicit Financial Flows that has been present in the region of Western Balkans since 2017. GI-TOC is our long-term partner, and this cooperation is very important to us since one of the goals of our program is the strengthening of the civil society perspective on the themes of illicit financial flows, as well as the promotion of collaboration in the region, since we are faced with a lot of similar challenges. Also, I would like to stress out that this was a joint effort thanks to the input of civil society and state institutions, and we hope we managed to address all the concerns. We are looking forward to hear more about the toolkit, and I hope it will be useful to all the parties involved in the fight against illicit financial flows. I would like to thank you all again for being here, and I hope that we will have a fruitful discussion today. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Minela. Indeed, it's been very great pleasure to working with the GIZ in this project, and we're looking forward to further enhance our cooperation with you. Now we'll give the floor to my colleague, Anisa Agovic. She's a field coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Together, we will deliver a presentation about the IFF's toolkit. Anisa.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone that actually decided today to join us and to spend time diving into our newest launch of this toolkit. As my colleague already announced, my name is Anesa. I'm based in Sarajevo, and I'm field coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Previously, our director already noted how much we have spent, we can say, time and resources on reaching out into illicit financial flows in the Western Balkans. Today, we are summarizing all our efforts, and we can say putting it into this toolkit. So other civil society, media, and academia, and everyone who is interested into this topic we can say, check the content out, see it in a more easier and accessible way, and of course, learn and compare findings within the countries. We have seen that our recent assessments on the IFFs in the Western Balkans confirmed how much widespread corruption in the region is, the growth of the criminal organizations, and also tax evasion and trade-based money laundering are continuing to facilitate illicit financial flows. Next slide, please, Claudio. Please also, Almedina, share the links of these reports so the participants can check it out. As you can see that we have already worked previously on the illicit financial flows in the Western Balkans. We have also, through our research, accented how much civil society needs to be engaged in this topic, how much civil society needs to get knowledge and skills within this topic. And in light of this, previously we have supported in joint cooperation, we have published this Cash is King report in the collaboration with the Bulgarian civil society. There's also a sense often that why civil society is at the table when we speak about on the IFFs, and it's often neglected in saying that this is not the domain of civil society, but this is the response on how much civil society can contribute and can work with the relevant, we can say, stakeholders on this issue. Next slide. Within this slide, we can go just to introduce you with our project's milestones on how much we worked on previously to come to this day. It is important to say that we devoted special attention when starting off the project to create the methodology of the toolkit. We have developed a series of consultative meetings with relevant stakeholders, including civil society, media, academia, network of experts, but also institutions that are relevant for this topic. This process was called in sense of to hear not only the feedback, but also the ideas on how this toolkit should look like, but also how should we approach in comprising the information to be easily understandable. It is important to say that within this research, it was a very, we can say, complex process of getting the information, where there we also had challenges in collaborating with certain, in sense, institutions, but also in the sense we have jointly provided the best possible access to the information. Within our consultative process, before the publishing this toolkit, we have spoke about our findings, but also we have fact check all the information that our consultants and our field work that was delivered to be, in one sense, we can say, gathered. It is important to note that within our consultative process, we also gave special attention to working in the sense of creating this interactive tool, but also to provide a very interesting component where we are proud that we provided that there is also an interesting podcast that we created with our team. So please, Medina, also share this link for the colleagues to be introduced. Next slide. I wanted to share with you, we can say, the numbers of these projects, which is important for you to understand on how much we have spent not only time, but resources in that sense, where we have conducted more than 90 interviews today to have this overall country profiles and the content for all Western Balkan 6 countries. More than 100 participants participate in our online meetings and events where we spoke about the toolkit methodology, but also we received feedback and very constructive dialogues resulted in today's discussion, in providing today's discussion. This research conducted in 6 countries also provided, we can say, growing recognition of damaging impact of illicit financial flows. Why we say this? Because in our findings, we saw that there is very limited knowledge about illicit financial flows, but not only within the civil society and media, but also within the institutions. But because there is not legislation set in place defining illicit financial flows. So we are proud on that fact that we are growing this recognition of importance to address the illicit financial flows. It is important also to say that from today, that now you are joining this event, there is a subdomain provided specifically for this online toolkit on the illicit financial flows. So everyone interested can easily access, which is also in English language. Next slide. I will just accent on this toolkit, a couple of, we can say, references. It is important to see this toolkit as a remedy it will enable everyone interested to understand, but also contribute to mitigate illicit financial flows. Presenting complex data on this very difficult topic, it was not an easy task, and for all of us, we have provided a lot of resources in sense of understanding and providing it in this way. This toolkit in future should be regularly updated, and the main purpose of this toolkit is to enable civil society, the public, and the international community to monitor a country's performance in combating IFFs and ultimately empower the civil society. It is important also to accent that we are trying to grow this recognition of IFFs because mostly institutional representatives were asking us what are IFFs and we're not understanding what are those, and usually would point us out to AML terminology or certain framework. In the end, I would like to say that this toolkit will provide these short summaries when you click on it, and later on you will have to download a full report where we have in more details described IOs. It is important to say also that these reports are drawing up on our previous findings and calling up on the FATF's mutual evaluation reports. Thank you. This is all on my side.
Thank you, Anessa. Now I will give a very brief presentation about the role of civil society in combating IFFs. Claudia, if you could share the screen, thank you. All right. So first, let's look into the key challenges that the civil society organizations face in the Western Balkans. Um, Governments in the region are still taking steps to reduce the oversight, erode checks and balances, and undercut efforts for transparency and accountability, and limiting the space for civil society as well as the media. We have also many cases in which governments provide public money to CSOs based on political favoritism and without any competition. Independent media, especially investigative journalists, struggle to find funding and also are increasingly becoming subjects of attacks from government, but also other parties. And in some countries, we have seen that the anti-money laundering legislation, so amendments, were misused to increase control over civil society and also civil society actors or activists. And we've seen this particularly towards organizations and people who uh, who criticize governments. So in overall, we have identified that there is little understanding and awareness on IFFs in the Western Balkans, and this is in fact is one of the least researched topics in the area. When we did a research policy, a research paper on the topics that are mostly researched in the area of organized crime in the Western Balkans, we identified that this is the least research. There is also little data available, and also it's quite difficult to access in certain countries, and there is also limited donor support. So more projects from donors are very important to support local civil society organizations across the Western Balkans. There are three main areas in which the civil society organizations can work in IFFs. Next slide, please. One of the most important areas is awareness and advocacy. So as IFFs is relatively new topic for the region, it can help open fresh dialogue opportunities. CSOs can be engaged in increasing public awareness about IFS and also their consequences, but also promote financial inclusion and reducing informality. IFFs is not a priority among the governments of the Western Balkans, so civil society organization can support in building political will, and also they can demand from governments to increase both the quantity and quality of data on IFFs. Next slide, please. Another area which is very important is inclusiveness and cooperation. Civil society organizations should be actively involved in drafting legislation and policies in areas related to IFF, and there is a need to further enhance the cooperation between investigative journalism and law enforcement. In many countries of the Western Balkans, we have seen very good examples where investigative media or journalists, in cooperation with law enforcement, have achieved many results. But at the same time, there is also a need for stronger cooperation between civil society actors. So, for example, an article published by an investigative journalist could be followed by research by a civil society organization, while at the same time, academia could be also engaged to provide more scientific approach in this domain. So the triangle between media, academia, and civil society needs to work together in order to research this topic more comprehensively. Next slide, please. And as a civil society organizations, one of the main activities is monitoring and reporting. They could be engaged in this process as well. As I said earlier, it's a topic that it was not covered by CSOs, so they need to focus more in this area, but also together they can work to expose illicit activities. The least progress was achieved in investigation of money laundering cases, and we have seen this from various reports that we looked into. So, and also the publications in this domain are very scarce. So, for example, in Kosovo, there are only two publications specifically on anti-money laundering, while on IFFs there are none. So we need more monitoring and research on IFFs. Next slide, please. But in order for civil society to provide these activities, we need together to build capacities. So the toolkit is an initial step to get equipped with knowledge on IFFs, but government, and especially the donor community, they should support civil society initiatives on IFFs. So by building capacity programs, strengthening the knowledge, expertise, etc., but also supporting projects either at local level but also in the region as a whole. So this was my presentation in brief, and then we will be open for questions during the Q&A session. Now, without further ado, I will give the floor to my colleague Claudio.
Thank you for having me, Dardan. Today, as head of digital project at the Global Initiative, I would like to highlight the importance of investing strategically in the development of tools like this as a non-profit organization. In a world that is dominated by data and information, it is essential to provide information that is not only understandable, but also actionable. And this is a key point. Throughout the latest years at the Global Initiative, we have invested a lot in the design and develop of digital projects, digital tools that can be data visualization tools or like information toolkit like this. And in 2023 alone, we have engaged more than 250,000 users across our platform, digital tools only. Of course, these tools can be global, can be local. You might be aware of the Global Organized Crime Index. That is our biggest global in scope open source tool. But it is important to highlight the effort of our regional observatory in developing and presenting these regional toolkits, because they can offer a more granular view over the illicit dynamics in a given region. We can see that for West Africa or for the Balkans as well. As Anessa was saying, and I like to reiterate that point, that the collective effort of our team, of our research team, of our editorial team and the design team to distill complex information into something that can be used, it was like the biggest effort. And today we can present something that is definitely usable, and also was a great effort because, of course, this can be applied to organized crime as a whole, but especially with financial crime and illicit financial flows, we realized that the complexity was really important for us to provide civil society and our stakeholder with something that is accessible and usable. I would like to point on one other thing that is very important to us, is that not only our research team is from the region, but also the design agency that we have selected for the development of this tool is also from the region. So today we can say that we have a tool that is by the Balkans, for the Balkans, and we are really proud of that as an organization. Before I start sharing my screen with the tool, I would like also to highlight that this is one of the 5 digital tools that we have produced as an observatory, and we now have a full suite of open source tools that we call hotspots, organized crime in the Western Balkans, that you will find online, and that cover topics from irregular migration to drugs trafficking, seaport mapping, and illicit financial flow, and football hooliganism as well. I'm gonna quickly share my screen with the website we're presenting today. As Anessa pointed, we follow the structure of the Financial Action Task Force. On the landing page, you can immediately have a look at how we define illicit financial flow, the structure of illicit financial flows, and an overview of our research that is linked to previous publication that we have issued throughout the latest year to the Global Initiative. You can find online and in the links that have been shared in the chat. So we have a complete list of these immediate outcomes that will guide the navigation of every country page. Country pages that you will find here. We cover all the Western Balkan 6 countries, and you can click on a flag on the read more to access the country page where you, first of all, in the header part, you will find general information about the country, like population, GDP, but also the criminality score and the resilience score that are taken from the 2023 Global Organized Crime Index, for which you can also find a direct link to the Albania country page right here. On the Organized Crime Index, you will be able to not only look at financial crime, but 15 different markets and compare each country with any country in the rest of all over the world. Every country page follows the same structure, not only for the immediate outcomes, but also for how we can display like the key challenges and the role of civil society in any given country. And here, as we were saying, we have a full, complete overview of the immediate outcomes and the recommendation ultimately to end each country profile. I also wanted to quickly show you this hotspots collection. We worked really hard with the observatory since 2019 to put together this amazing set of open source tools. And here we are proud to present all of them in a single page. So you can see here we have smuggling of migrants in the Western Balkans that is also was updated last year with new data, football hooliganism, seaport mapping, and drug markets in the Western Balkans that we are going to present next week on the 20th of February in another webinar. So I invite you to that. I stop sharing my screen. I also invite you to scan the QR code that you will find behind me here, because our website is also mobile friendly, because we value accessibility a lot also for mobile users and young users as well. And please ask questions in the chat. Do not hesitate to get in touch also via email. You will find my contact on the Global Initiative website. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Claudio. Now we have the time for open discussion. You can make question in the chat, but also you can raise the hand, and then we will give the floor to you. You can make comments, suggestions, or questions for us, for the toolkit, for country profiles, etc. So let's see if we have anyone. Yes, Claudio, can you give permission to Nina? Please, before you start with the question or comment, introduce yourself, where you work, and from which country. Thank you. Nina, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your presentation. It is a really informative one. I'm working for the International Foundation for Electoral System here in Montenegro, and part of our project is also related to detecting, tracking, and responding to illicit financial flows in the context of elections, but even beyond. But I would like to hear from you, because I'm yet to read your report. What are the key obstacles in legislation, as well as in the practical sense, that you have identified in the case of Montenegro, and what are, the proposed remedies to this, I'd say, a really complicated process, as well as one of the key impeders of the democratization and fight against corruption and organized crime in the country. Thank you very much.
Anessa, do you want to take the floor?
Thank you, Nina. Regarding the Montenegro, we had a very experienced consultant that conducted a series of interviews. And during its research, it was noted that it was very difficult to, we can say, interview relevant people, not only from the institutional level, but also from, on the other hand, experienced people who are willing to talk about this topic. So this is a challenge that was an obstacle for almost everyone in the Western Balkans working on this project. Regarding the Montenegro, and we have seen through our national risk assessment, we provided on information from there. We also noted that there are inadequate results in combating money laundering. There is a lack of technical capacity, but also lack of cooperation between the state authorities. And speaking about the fight against or curbing the illicit financial flows, there was an issue with the inadequate statistical records and providing available data. In sense of obliged entities in both the financial and non-financial sector, we have provided their risk level to money laundering. In challenges on Montenegro, which was very specific, that was approach to blockchain, cryptocurrency, and financial technology that were presenting numerous challenges, and the efforts of the authorities in some sense in regulating this area was contradictory. One important note is that, as we can say in all countries, but also within the Montenegro, that corruption is a substantial risk for Montenegro. Like pointing out the very close links from organized criminal groups to politicians.
Thank you, Anessa. Now I see that Tadic Kosa has raised the hand, and then afterwards, then we will give the floor to Luis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank you. I must compliment the Global Initiative team for putting together this toolkit. It's indeed a great professional initiative for the West Balkan countries. And my gratitude to both Germany and Norway, GIZ, and their support. Well, as a member of Global Initiative Network and director of Center for Governance Research in Pakistan, we have had a very close experience of working with the state and civil society in Pakistan in taking out the country from the gray list of FATF. And so my first question was, out of the 6 countries, is any of the 6 countries part of the gray list in FATF? And of course, this toolkit could be very helpful for the state stakeholders to identify any gaps in their laws and legislative framework, practices, SOPs, and others, which could be greatly helpful. And my second part of the question is, as a team, have you sort of tried to project an international best practice in the context of anti-money laundering laws and others which should be adopted by the 6 West Balkan countries? But once again, I think thank you for taking this question, and we really appreciate this effort. Thank you, Dardan.
Thank you. Albania was one of the countries that was in the FATF gray list, but the country was removed from the list in last October, and we have also noted this in our report, in where we have also highlighted the areas in which the country, in this case Albania, has made progress. By looking into the profile of Albania, we have also, and during our research, we have seen that due to collective efforts also in Albania, as in the case of Pakistan, the country was able to remove from the gray list. In all the profiles, but also in the landing in the landing page where you can see, we have tried to collect the best practices, international practices, and also recommend countries in the Western Balkans to take measures to address the IFFs in a collective, in a comprehensive approach. So where you go in the profile, when you see countries, then you will see not only as challenges, but also in the area of recommendations, you will see examples how we identify the challenges, but also how we propose some recommendation for countries to address them. Anessa, you wanted also to take the floor?
Regarding Bosnia and Herzegovina, it was previously gray listed. Now we are going under evaluation, and there is in the media, and we can say some reports that potentially could again end up. But hopefully, following up the FATF and the Moneyval procedures, the Bosnia will not end up again on that list. But there are efforts now to, we can say, try to validate and deliver on the compliance efforts that are necessary for not to be gray listed again. It is important to note that often countries are not in timely manner doing their best, and then when the times come, they have to do it very quickly because they have short deadlines, and then it is very hard to prove that they have provided certain results. So in that sense, I believe that continuous work and working in following not only trends, but trying to work more in the collaboration with other institutions within one country, but also within the region, it is important. For example, within this toolkit, we have noted on the international collaboration, and we have provided examples on what and how countries are collaborating. Very interesting initiative is that there was one initiative within the civil society perspective on the joint project, trying to self-assess capacities against money laundering. But on the other hand, most of these initiatives are reflected to the institutions in Bosnian case.
Thank you, Anessa. We have one raised hand. Bokhort. Yes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, good morning. My name is Tim Boekhout van Solingen from the Netherlands. I work for the SKC, the Strategic Knowledge Center of the Ministry of Justice, where I'm a researcher. We actually are kind of a partner organization of Global Initiative. So thank you for your presentations, very interesting. I have a question, and very important as well, and it was for me personally interesting. I did development studies once, and it was interesting and important to hear that how difficult it is to work, you know, in a, let's say, political environment where press and research it cannot really function totally freely. So my question is actually about basically the international linkages of the money example, and to what extent do you see a link with maybe financial centers in Western Europe, like London or the Netherlands or Germany? And because I saw in the report Cash is King, I think of a list of 8 countries that are vulnerable. I think, for example, my country, the Netherlands, is mentioned in half of them, half of the cases. Some NGOs and critical journalists say the Netherlands is a money laundering center as well, which I tend to agree, I think, but I cannot speak, of course, on behalf of the ministry or my institute about this. But so this is I have a dual question. One is in terms of problem analysis. So where do you, with all the illicit financial flows, to what extent do you see linkages with, let's say, Western Europe, where many goods come in the big ports, legal and illegal goods, for drugs, of course. So and then in terms of solutions, where do you see maybe solutions, or should also countries like the Netherlands take more responsibility for maybe looking themselves better on illegal flows, or maybe be more critical towards countries? So this is my question. So in terms of problem analysis? Is there, to what extent is there a link with Western countries, maybe? And then in terms of solutions, where do you see solutions? Maybe in collaboration, or that they take more responsibility, or sharing information, etc. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I will give the floor first to Fatjona and then to Anessa and myself.
Thank you very much for the question. I think that is a very important one. And I think this is why it's important that we really gather and discuss about this topic, because everything is interconnected. And we know that there are three main components of illicit financial flows. And as my colleagues also mentioned, is corruption, is organized crime, and also tax evasion, that they all contribute to this the concept of illicit financial flows. And on the other hand, of course, some of these phenomenon in the region, they are extremely linked with other countries, and especially when it comes to Western Europe. We know, for example, that in case of corruption, we have the money that they are illicitly, generated in the countries of the Western Balkans, and they are transferred abroad. And they are transferred abroad in countries like, let's say, the Netherlands, the UK, other countries, and especially we are talking here about money coming from corrupted politicians and people in power. On the other hand, it's another way how issues of illicit financial flows are connected as well. Because we know, for example, that right now, when it comes to organized crime in this region, we know that the majority of the organized crime groups in this region, in fact, they are present and they act in the Western Europe. And of course, the money are generated there, and then they are fueled furthermore in the Western Balkans, where this money are invested, but also they are also invested in the countries where they are present. So definitely, this is not an issue that can be tackled alone. So I think it's very important, and this is why we have continuously put the emphasis in the need of really having the civil society engaged in combating and exposing illicit financial flows. Because governments can do one thing, but I think in this regard, and finding out how this links from one country to another, it's very important to have the support, let's say, of the civil society organizations, investigative journalists that could expose the phenomenon. So really, this is very valid point, and I think that we should do more. Everybody should do more in this regard. So maybe my colleagues Dardan and Anessa have something to add more in terms of concrete recommendations if we have any in our toolkit.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, also, Fatjona, for opening the floor. Within analysis on what countries are doing, we have also provided information reflecting through their, we can say, publicly available information, but also through national risk assessments. And there was information about how many requests are sent from FIUs from one country to or abroad, or vice versa. So in that sense, there was a list of countries, for example, on which are the countries are asking mostly requests about certain criminal groups or about certain, we can say, suspicious transactions, to explain it like that. So in that end, we can say that there are links with those financial centers, but in some cases, in some countries more, in some periods, and in some countries less. But also we have got the information that the collaboration between FIUs on the national level with other countries are not at the best, we can say, possible way. And there is a need for collaboration and more, we can say, following up in that sense what is going on actually in the field. It is important to know that even in the sense of national risk assessments and providing information on what and how the countries are doing, even the typologies of money laundering in that sense and understanding, on the other hand, the illicit financial flows, there's a space for improvement. So in that sense, in our toolkit, we provided the information that are there available, but also provide information on this other side where are not taken enough into consideration.
And maybe just to add 1 minute that in a sense, there is this asymmetric exchange of information in general. So governments, law enforcement, FIUs in the Western Balkans think that they actually provide more information to their counterparts than they receive. And this was identified as a key challenge, especially by FIUs, because in order to tackle the FAFs or anti-money laundering, you need information from countries in Western Europe and other countries in overall. So this is something that also other countries, especially the EU countries, they need to improve. We have another raised hand, Miss Aurora Halile.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Aurora. I'm from Albanian Center for Economic Research from Albania. First of all, I just wanted to thank you for sharing this tool with us because I think it's very useful and of course it will help us quite a bit in our daily job. I just wanted, because something like caught my eye during the presentations that you mentioned that the illicit financial flows is one of the maybe the last researched topic in the Western Balkans. And I just wanted to know, I don't know if you have this information, but like how does it compare to the rest of the countries, and like what would cause this to happen? Like what would illicit financial flows be that much of like a non-interest topic in the Western Balkans, and like how can this like maybe get better or get improved in the upcoming future? That's my question. Thank you.
So last year we published a report called Mind the Gap, in which we analyzed the topics that were published by civil society organizations, media, but also academia. So various forms of organized crime. And there we identified that in the area of IFFs, anti-money laundering, this is the least research topics. During our two previous reports on IFFs, we identified that this is also because civil society organizations have limited awareness, understanding about the topic. But this limited knowledge and awareness is also among public institutions in the Western Balkans. So this is why we decided to go forward with this project and build this toolkit in order to provide a basic knowledge for civil society organizations, so then they can do more comprehensive research in their countries, in the whole region in general. So, for example, in the case of Albania, when you go to the profile, you see many areas, for example, that present the profile of Albania on IFFs, looking into understanding of the risk, international cooperation, supervision, etc. So from this profile, we believe that you as a researcher, but also others, can take some basic knowledge, and then from there you can do more extensive research and start to monitor also governments in this area, because as I said in my presentation, this area is also one of the least monitored areas because of limited understanding and awareness of civil society organizations. I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything.
Maybe I'll just add something very shortly. We all agree that the illicit financial flows is a complex topic. It's not a topic that it's easy. I think it's not easy for everyone. And on the other hand, we know that until now in this region, even the public institutions that they were in charge of dealing with issues with the illicit financial flows, they usually have kind of outsources expertise when it comes to this topic. And so has been little expertise, in fact, built in the region when it comes to this topic. So I think this is something important. And really, we believe that it's good that we have started, not only us, but also other organizations throughout the region, to really help the civil society to build this expertise. Because this is the first thing. On the other hand, there are some topics where state institutions, they think that they shouldn't be any engagement of civil society. So sometimes you will have also reaction in terms of how do you know about this issue? This is technical, complex issue. And so how do you have the knowledge in terms of really reviewing our reports and also being critical to them? which of course to certain points that it's true, but of course the situation needs to change. And it's very important, like really, and this is one of the recommendations of the toolkit, like really have more support from the donor in raising the capacities of the local experts, civil society organization, media, in order to better understand this topic. And in fact, this toolkit, one of the things that does is like, I mean, really tries to break down the big concept of illicit financial flows and really use a concise and very simple language, in fact, to explain this complex phenomenon.
Thank you, Fatjona. Do we have other interested participants that would like to take the floor, make a comment or question? No? All right, so maybe we can have...
Dardan, sorry, I
Yes.
think there are some questions in the Q&A session
Yes,
already.
I'm trying to also respond through chat, but let's see, on Marina. She has asked about the ownership of results, the truth, etc. So the ownership is of GI, and we have the reports were prepared by our team, but also in cooperation with national experts where we have engaged. We organize also a consultative meeting with government. So the idea is that governments, public institutions also build the knowledge and expertise by looking into our toolkit. During our research, we also found that many civil society organizations, but also governments, are actually very interested to see this toolkit and also learn information not only from their respective countries, but also how the situation is in other countries. And we believe that this will be a very helpful tool for the CSOs, but also other researchers and governments. Anessa, you wanted also to take the floor?
Yes, Dardan, thank you. Thank you for very constructive questions. I would just like to respond to Diana. She was putting several questions there. So to accent that regarding the UNODC, the information and the general, we can say, concept and definition of IFFs that you have shared here, it is also important to note that this toolkit that we have worked on follows a bottom-up approach for analyzing illicit financial flows, but also it takes the key predicate crimes, assessing each of it and aggregates them. Within that, we have structured the GI's IFF's policy, and we are following up on the financial flows, trade flows, and the informal flows. Thank you. We will also follow up with your email.
Thank you, Anessa. I don't see that we have any open question or raised hand. Maybe, Fatjona, we can move forward with conclusion and final remarks by you, and then followed by Minella.
Thanks, Dardan. In fact, I don't have all the recommendations about illicit financial flows are already in the toolkit. But I believe that sharing knowledge and tools to help civil society and other stakeholders like media in playing a better role in the region is very important to us. So we are really glad that we are doing so, especially when it comes, as I mentioned, to the complex topic of illicit financial flows. I really hope that you are going to stay online after this webinar and check and engage with our toolkit and see how it can better help in your work. We are going to constantly update the toolkit, and of course, we might notify you about updates. And I really hope that this webinar today was useful for you, and the toolkit is going to be useful. And please stay tuned, because we are going to have more research on illicit financial flows. And also, if you have some ideas or if you want to contribute, please feel free to reach us out. Thank you again for your presence today, and I really hope to see you soon in other events.
Minella?
Thank you, Dardan. I'll be brief. I hope you found today's event and discussion very informative, and I hope you'll get a chance to dive deeper into the toolkit and see what it actually offers. Thank you once again for joining, and I wish you a nice rest of the day.
Minella, before we conclude, I'll give also the floor to Anessa for some final remarks.
In the end, I would like to thank you everyone for not only joining today, but also many of you participated in this project, contributing to our research efforts. And we appreciate all of the countries' representatives that contributed for better understanding this issue, and especially that we are opening a wide space for civil society to engage more and also to provide more, we can say, knowledge and skills for not only civil society, but media, and encourage academia, especially, to do more research about this. So thank you on my side, and on behalf of my team, we really value your support and cooperation.
And before we end the webinar, just to inform you that the toolkit will be updated. Very soon you will see also more information, updated information about all the countries, and we will update the toolkit regularly. As Anessa and Fationa said, during this year we will have 2 upcoming reports which tackle anti-money laundering, but also the role of private sector on IFFs. And feel free also to reach to us if you have any question or any recommendation. So thank you again for all your active participation, and we hope to see you in other webinars and events. Have a good day and a week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you again.